Um, I welcome everyone. So today's topic is really about, is your resume landing you interviews? And if the answer to that is no, then hopefully at the end of this session, that will be, you will can say yes to that. And that's my objective for today. So our agenda is to define what a resume is, to know your target or targets, establish your brand, talk about the applicant tracking system, talk about formatting your resume and the content. And as Samantha said, this is very content rich. So if you could hold your questions to the end, that would be terrific. So what is a resume? A resume is a marketing tool. It's something that promotes a product, and the product is you. So you're really in a sales campaign. A strong resume proactively answers the question, why should we hire you? It's a one-page summary that shows how your experiences, your work, and your education have qualified you for the target job, and emphasizes what is relevant in your background, clearly conveying that you're a good fit for this role. So it's really not, which a lot of people think it is, just a data dump of everything you've ever done for in your life. And some of these resumes have 17 bullets under every job. That's way too much. So it's really a sales piece. Think of it like a sales slick. And the question is, why should we hire you? And one page, I'm going to straddle back and forth here. I'm going to try to address people who have maybe none to a few years of experience, and also people who are very experienced, where maybe they have to go to a two-page resume because they have a lot to say. So if you were on or were not on the last month's thing, I talked about branding. Branding is something that's very important here, because it's the process of how we market ourselves to others. It's how employers, what the story is that you're going to tell to employers. So every time you're in a transition, like wanting to get a new job, my advice to people is to take one step back to go two steps forward, and to really understand what you have to offer. Just like if you were in a sales campaign selling a product, you'd want to know what the benefits of that product is. You wouldn't just go running on the street and trying to knock on doors with it. You would say, well, this is what's good. These are the attributes. So in this case, since the product is you, you'd want to know your strengths, your values, what you're passionate about, and also, if you can, what would separate you from your competitors. You want to make your resume industry, position specific. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, about how to target your resume. And use their lingo, meaning the employers, the new place you want to go, their lingo, if you can know it, but at least cleanse your resume of the old lingo. We're all lingo. We all have jargon. Every profession has jargon. I just spoke to someone an hour ago who was telling me about the OCA, and I had to slow her down and say, listen, I don't know what that is, because we get so used to it that we don't realize that that's not a language that other people speak. So that's a real way to turn off an employer, is by still speaking in your former employer's language or the former company's language. So you tell your story by knowing your brand. So a brand is your unique promise of value, your value proposition. What value do you bring to the employer? So this is a time to take an inventory of your skills, your knowledge, your experience, and what makes you uniquely qualified. So you're taking a look at your hard skills, like it might be Google Analytics or Excel or some technical thing for your particular function. Or it could be soft skills, like leadership or flexibility, multitasking. So you want to know all the things that you have to offer, and especially what you've accomplished that connects with the position. And I'm not going to go into that at length here. I did a whole thing on that last week and last month, and I think there's a recording. But you want to make sure that you're speaking in accomplishments. That's really more important than responsibilities. Because as an employer, the only way that I know how you're going to perform in the future for me is to know what you've done in the past. And so these are accomplishments. And what I suggest you do, I haven't laid it out here, but is to think of your, both in work and in school, think of times where you can say, specific times that you can say, I did a good job and I enjoyed it, because we all want to use motivated skills. We don't want to use, we don't want to do things that we don't enjoy doing. So you want to have these on your fingertips, because it's the accomplishments that you want to speak to on your resume, and you're also going to need them for your interview. So it really behooves you to take a look, even if it's something that happened 20 years ago, it's still something that you accomplished. And this is part of your brand. Okay. And then brand consistency is very important. For most of you, I hope you have, in addition to a resume, you have a LinkedIn profile, because that is really your other resume. What you say below your name is called the headline, and you have 120 characters there, and that should be those skills that you're saying on your LinkedIn headline should be similar to what you're saying on your resume. Because as a recruiter, once I see your resume and I'm serious about you, I'm going to look at your LinkedIn. I want to see what you look like. I want to see what skills you have. And I want to see what you say about yourself. Because in LinkedIn, you can use the word I. It's also going to be consistent with your elevator pitch, which is the 2-minute, or 30-second introducing yourself and what your brand is. Also in terms of your interview, your network. So across all these different media, you want to be able to have a consistent brand. So if you're known as somebody who always brings ideas, that would be consistent throughout this whole thing. Or you're a very organized person, or you're somebody who can turn data into and have it make sense. This is something that you're going to be consistent with across all these different elements. So they all kind of intertwine. Now, this is something, before you go out and start writing your resume, it's very important that you establish what your target or targets are. So a target is an industry, or sometimes it's a company size, a function, and a geographic area. So you want to be that specific, because it's, a lot of people will, all day long, I get resumes and people want to know, is this a good resume? There's no way for me to tell you if it's a good resume if I don't know the target. In my case, for instance, I've had, as Samantha was saying, I've had a number of different careers. And some of you with a lot of experience probably have the same thing. And so, I've been a recruiter, and I've been I've owned my own business. And I've been a coach. All of those are very different targets. And so if I was going to write a resume for a coaching job, my experiences would be the same, but I would highlight certain things. And as you'll see later, the skills that I would want to tout would be different from each of these targets. So I can't answer that question, nor should anyone else, if they don't know what your target is. Okay. So also a lot of you I know have had because of COVID, have had your career path decimated, which is just a shame, or at least put on hold, I should say, for the time being. The people in entertainment and event planning have now looking to do something else. So it's good to think about outside the box and look at what the new normal needs. A lot of the people that I have been talking to who are, let's say, in production for TV are now thinking about doing, looking who is building their streaming service. So something that's aligned to what they've been doing, but a little bit more in demand that we're in this COVID situation now. So another reason that I know we're not talking about job search specifically, that you should know what your industry function and geographic area is that companies should fall out of it. The best way to job search is not really looking just online, which a lot of you I know are doing, and it's very easy to get lured into that. But only 10% of people get their jobs that way, and I think in this market even less. So if you have a list of companies, it will help you network, know where you have to network and to be able to approach those companies. Know who you're chasing. And as I said, it's okay to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, but the resumes will look a little bit different because your keywords would be different. And we'll get into that a little bit later. So why is the format important? The format is important because if you are going to apply online, and even if you sometimes get in through networking, you will have to apply online, a vast majority of employees are using what's called the applicant tracking system in order to manage the high volume of applicants to identify high qualified candidates. So if I was let's say a recruiter for Ernst & Young, for instance, I would, and I'm gonna, I'm recruiting for a specific job, I wouldn't have the ability to read all those, nor do I want to read all the applications that are coming in. So I would have the computer read them for me and screen people out. So I might say, I only want to see the top 10% of applicants. So we're going to talk today, how do you get through that and how do you, be in the top 10%? But one of the ways is certainly to have the right format. So only 25% of resumes pass that initial ATS screening, and 75% don't get further consideration because of lack of formatting or lack of keywords. I can't say those two things enough. You need to have the right format and you have to have the right keywords for each job. So research shows that HR managers spend 7.5, sometimes it's 6, but whatever people, 6.5, under 10 seconds looking at a resume. So it has to be aesthetically pleasing, concise, and error-free, and easy to read. So you need to have your format and keywords in order. Now, these computers are used mostly by medium and large companies, but it's still good to have a resume that will pass these applicant tracking systems. So as I said again, a resume is not a one-size-fits-all, right? You have to tailor it to the major industry and position you're seeking, and pack it with relevant keywords from the job description. Okay, and so it should reflect your career interests. And I know a lot of people going, oh, that means more work. Yeah, but it might mean more work, but it's gonna be effective to getting you that interview. And that's what the whole purpose of a resume is to get you that interview. So it has to be tailored to with the right keywords. So I know a lot of people in the olden days would write the most broad, we used to use job objectives. We don't have that anymore. But they put the most broad thing on that they could because they didn't want to be eliminated from any jobs if they were too narrow. Well, that is opposite of how it works. You have to be focused, because if I don't get you in the 6.5 seconds that I'm going to look at this resume, you're going to confuse me and you're going to be eliminated. So it has to be very clear that you're applying to this specific job with the right keywords. Okay. So I can't say this enough, be very intentional in targeting your resume to the next step in your career. You emphasize what's relevant and de-emphasize what's irrelevant. So the call that I had right before I got on here was with a woman who was interested. She has her master's and her undergraduate in counseling, and she's now in a role that is in a kind of a counseling center, but she's doing payroll and she's doing more account processing, more numbers related. So what we were talking about is that her next role, she wants to be using her degree. So somebody mute themselves. So what I was advising her to do is to play out the counseling she was doing in that center, and to de-emphasize all the budgeting and accounts payable and receivable. So it's playing up what was relevant and de-emphasizing what is not relevant for the new target, because her next target, she wants to be in something like academic advising. She wants to stay in higher ed, which is much more aligned to her job goals, her future job goals. Something that is a terrific tool is jobscan.co. please know that, we're gonna send out this PowerPoint afterwards, but write this down. It's not a typo, it's jobscan.co. And what it does is, once you get your resume where you think it's as perfect as it can be for the job target, it'll have you cut and paste your resume on one side and cut and paste the job description of the job you're applying to on the other. And in a matter of seconds, it analyzes it. And I wouldn't pay too much attention. It'll give you a percentage. Don't worry about that. But it'll give you the hard skills and soft skills that you may or may not have. So if you are in an accounting job and let's say it is accounts payable that you need to have, the job description, it'll say the job description said that 3 times, accounts payable, and you didn't say it at all in your resume, which means that in order to be considered for that job, you need to put that somewhere in your resume. And if you can't, if you don't have that skill, then maybe this is not the right target for you. So jobscan.co helps you go behind that applicant tracking system to be considered and to see how the ATS system is analyzing you. So also, if you're going to use a resume for a specific job, you want to use the exact keywords that is listed in the posting. This is not a place to get creative. You want to use don't use a synonym, use their words, because the more you can match their words, whether an entry-level recruiter is going to look at it, a human being, or an applicant tracking system, a computer, it's be much more likely that you're going to get through that system and then be qualified for getting an interview, which we all want. So this is the dues, the ATS dues, what you want. You want a resume as 1 page, but I did say that if you have many years of experience, 2 pages is okay. You want to say what you have to say in the least amount of space. You want to remove all italics. You want to remove all underlines. A computer cannot read what is above an underline. So if you want that same look, you can use a bottom border, but you can't use an underline because the computer won't see it. You want to use a standard font of 10 to 12 throughout, and margins between 1/2 and 1 inch. You want your resume to be reverse chronicle order within each section. So education, reverse chronicle order, education, reverse chronicle order, and no headers, footers, text boxes, or charts or columns. And you want, a lot of people make this mistake, you want all the dates aligned to the right and everything else bulleted aligned to the left. So you want to set your right tabs, and borders are fine, as I said, but not underlines. So as I said, you will be getting, if you want this PowerPoint, so you don't have to memorize this, but I just want to tell you, it's a very plain vanilla type of resume. So here's more, you can see this more graphically. No PDFs for the applicant for applying online. Oops, sorry. No graphics, no fancy font, no tables, no fancy headings. This is very upsetting for someone when they've gone all, and they have a beautiful resume with all kinds of things like this, and they're, let's say, applying for a job as a graphic artist. So, you know, what my advice to them is, have that resume, have that wonderful resume, but if you're applying online to this job, use your plain vanilla one just to get you through this screening process, and bring this other one to the interview, should you get the interview, or better yet, apply online and then try to find out who the hiring manager is through your network, which is the subject of another one of these sessions. Try to find out who that person is and send them this resume, make mention of the fact that you applied online, and then they can show off all your ability to do this graphics and logos. So here, the formatting is again, please don't use online templates that you pull off the internet, because oftentimes they're not going to allow you to change them, and they're not going to be ATS acceptable. Okay, no headers or footers, no photo. I know a lot of our international students That's very common to have a photo, but the photo is really saved for LinkedIn. That's where a recruiter will look for your photo. And no dense paragraphs. An ATS system can't read a dense paragraph like that, and a recruiter doesn't want to. We're not used to that. So that other format, that plain vanilla format, is what's going to be most effective. No columns, no paragraphs, no photo. So we're going to start now and go through each section of the resume. You might want to, if you have your resume out, you might want to change things, or you might want to wait till later. So these are all acceptable ways of putting your contact information on top. You want to have your name in bold, 14 to 16 font. Obviously, that's the most important thing here, right? Is whose resume is this? We don't want to have to search for that. You want to use a simple 10 to 12 for the rest of the resume. You want to put your phone number in, but make sure it's your cell number and that you don't have any, you want a professional message. Not like, here's the Joneses and have, crazy music and, lots of people on the phone, because you have to be prepared that someone might call you who's a potential employer. You don't want to put your address. I correct this 5 times a day. You put your city and zip, city, state, and zip, but you don't have to have, 248 90th Street apartment 1Z, because no one's writing you a letter, and this is still going to get in strangers' hands. So in this day and age, you don't want to be that specific, and you don't need to be in terms of your regular address. Okay, you want to have a professional sounding hyperlink to your well, this is to LinkedIn. Okay, the location and zip. And if you put in, here, this is what that's meant. If you put in a hyperlink to your LinkedIn, make sure you've shortened your LinkedIn just to be linkedin.com and your name. Because once you set up a LinkedIn account, it will give you a whole bunch of numbers and letters after your name. So you have to go into LinkedIn and go to it says on the right-hand side, your public profile, your URL. There's a little pencil mark, and you want to take out all the numbers and letters after your name. And the shortened version, which is just LinkedIn and your name, is what you put on your resume. So all of these contact information formats are fine. It depends how much space you have. If you don't have a lot of things to say in your resume, you're just got out of school, you haven't had a lot of professional experience, you might want to do something like this, Svetlana. But if you have a lot of things that you want to say, you want to keep it simple and try to keep it on one line, because these are all the essential things: city, state, your phone number, your email, and your LinkedIn. Okay, so that's the contact. The next is what I feel is the most important, and a lot of people don't have it, and that's the summary or profile. It can be done, because what that is your elevator pitch. It's the written form of your elevator pitch. It's kind of telling that it's the trailer to the movie, right? If this is interesting, the recruiter is going to look at the rest of your resume. So sometimes people do just a couple of sentences about their experience. They sum it up. Sometimes they just do in this profile different things, different professions that they've been. Otherwise, they're just, anything that they want to be looked up or known for. But the profile is very important to have. And I'm going to tell you that in a little more detail in a second. It's also a great way to use the keywords that we talked about, to repeat the keywords. So it's a great way to use keywords. You want to keep it very specific, and you highlight your strengths and top qualities for the job. So if you see this resume here, I can't see the top, but it says financial analyst. It's really good for the recruiter if you can put in your aspirational title for the job. When I say aspirational, let's say you haven't had that job title before, but that's what you've been looking for. So in this case, the person puts in financial analyst. And then he puts the core competencies, or they're called skills or keywords, that he knows are important for that job. So without the profile, this fellow without the profile, you're typecast by your last job. So he would have been typecast in pricing and procurement manager, but he no longer wants to do that. So without the profile, there is no way for a recruiter or an applicant tracking system to know what he wants to do next. So that's why it's so important to have if you can, the name of the job that you've been looking for, you've been searching. And how do you find these words if you haven't been in the field? Well, you go into something like Indeed, and you put in financial analyst in his case, and then you read job descriptions. And the ones, you keep looking for the ones that repeat themselves. So there might be in all different kinds of companies and industries, but to be a financial analyst, there are certain ones that are the basic ones to have for that job. And if you have them, you put them on here. Now, if he happen to have pricing, profit margin analysis and modeling, if not, I mean, you can't put anything you don't have, but this is what will inform you of what are the keywords to have on this. I hope if this is not clear, please ask me in the question and answer session. Now, here's somebody who is more experienced. This other person only had a few years. This person has like 20 years, 15 years of experience. So her profile is longer. And I'm only illustrating these because those of you out there, my more experienced alumni, you want to be able to, I'm just going to give you suggestions of other kinds of categories that you might use. So you might always, you might have a little headline about yourself, little tagline, the expertise that's always got to be there. And then if you're, if you're in a quantitative kind of job, something with, finance or with something where you can quantify your results, that's always a good thing to do. And then she has at the bottom, recognized for. So this is something that's traveled with her. Wherever she goes, she's recognized for these things. Now, I'm not saying that you have to put all of these categories because it might make your resume too long, but you might want to pick and choose. And I've given you another one here of another fellow. He's a senior marketing executive. Again, he has the expertise, which is the keywords, but instead of results, he has accomplishments. So this might be more appropriate for some of you who have accomplishments that you want to put down there. It doesn't mean that you don't put these accomplishments in the bullet points on your resume. It's just a way to make sure someone's going to see them, because as I said, this is the trailer. This is what they're going to. This is sort of your 30-second pitch. And in this case, he has a lot of awards that he wanted to show you, display. So depending on how much experience you have and which categories fit you, you might want to think about this. But the bare minimum is to have those keywords and call it skills or expertise. Okay? So the next is, after you have your contact information and you have your profile, is your education. Here's again the if you're recently out of school or you've recently got a degree, that you want people to see. Because if you have more experience, once you've been in the work world for a while, experience trumps education. Even though it's an illustrious school like Pace, still experience trumps education. So in this case, it's somebody that's more junior. They're actually, they didn't even graduate yet, but that was the example here. So this is how you set it up, Pace University, the college that you graduated from. I don't know why this is, I used another deck for this. I would not put high school. Once you come to college, high school's a thing of the past. Most people don't put high school on a resume. So you want to have the school name left aligned, and the dates, like we talked before, the format are right aligned. You want to have it in reverse chronological order. So this person transferred from Monmouth to Pace. So Pace would come first because that was their most recent degree. Okay, and you don't want to have an acronym. You want to spell out things because, as I said, people don't know what those acronyms are. So it's reverse chronological order. And the month and year are aligned to the right. They're not cramped all together on the left-hand side next after the school. Okay. Now here's this coursework. For those of you who don't have a lot of professional experience, and you don't really have a lot of things to say on your resume, I mean, maybe you've just taken some jobs to earn money. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're applying now for a professional job. And the only thing you've got really is to show the coursework. You can put those in, but as I said, once you have some work experience, you don't want to put coursework because to a recruiter, like when I was a recruiter, I don't really know what that means. I don't know whether you went to those courses. I don't know how well you did, and I don't know the content of the courses. But if you need a filler, and this is all you have, then put it in. Okay, you want to have courses related to your major, not all the courses that you took. And the course names, not numbers, macro, micro, 101 point, whatever the name is not meaningful to anybody outside of PACE. Okay. Here's another one, academic projects. Now these are fine because that's sort of like work experience. If you need to put things that are more professional, academic, just because you haven't gotten paid for something, whether that's academic projects or even volunteer work, doesn't mean it doesn't count. You've still been exposed to it. You still know, would know how to do it. It wouldn't be your first time seeing it when you got to a new job. So you want to also do, so for academic projects, that's really important. I work with a group of J1s who are, see there's PACE jargon, some international students from France who come here, and in their program they have something that's like a work experience where they actually do market research and present to, it's a problem that's set up by a CEO of a company. It's given to a small group of students, and they come out with some recommendations for the CEO. So that's like work experience. They weren't paid for it, but it certainly is an interesting thing for a recruiter to take a look at. So a great way to use keywords. And 1 to 3 significant class projects related to a major or position, if you have them, and if they're related to what you want to do next. Okay, so the next is work experience. So work experience is set up, formatted similar to education. Now, as I said, I'm going to repeat myself. If you've been working for a while in a professional capacity, your work experience will come first and your education will come second. Otherwise, it's the way we're setting it up here. So you want to have your employer and job title aligned to the left. You want to have it in reverse chronological order. And here's an example of someone who's worked for multiple positions within the same company. So you want to put it all under one headline. You don't have to put the company twice, because what it does that way is it looks like it shows the longevity you've had, and it also shows that you've advanced in that company. So it's good to put it all under the banner of that one company. And you want to put the city, state, and dates of employment there. Like, I don't want to confuse you. You could put the city and state right next to Chase, or you can do it on the right. The most important thing is the dates are aligned to the right for that formatting. Okay. And then what might come last for you is professional affiliations or leadership. Leadership certainly trumps just joining. It's better to be in one thing and show that you took a leadership position from an employer standpoint then joined a lot of different things. Again, like the classes, I don't know whether as a recruiter you've actually, even intended these sessions. But in this case, the person was a front page editor for the Pace Press. That's a big deal thing, especially if they're going into something with like publishing or writing. They were the secretary of a social media club. And they also worked, it shows they're, socially responsible. But if you have activities that show that you've been doing it for a long time, like you're an accomplished pianist or you've done sports and you've gotten to the top of your game, these are things that employers do take into account, especially when it's between you and another job applicant. So you want to enhance it with bullets, and please indicate leadership positions. Like I said, those are the most important in terms of professional outside of school affiliations. And next is skills. These are not the kind of skills that I was talking in the profile. These are more skills that are common to a lot of people. So here we talk about computer skills, general computer skills like your Microsoft Office suite of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, maybe Adobe Photoshop. Some of these actually should be moved to the top if the person was going for jobs that required these kinds of things, iMovie, Prezi. This is where you would put your languages, unless you're going to be a translator, and then you move that to the top. So its skills are languages, and software. Now, the only place that this is an exception is if you were looking for a computer job, right? If you're a technical applicant, then you want to move all these technical things to the top. You want to move them in your profile section because that's what people are looking to hire you for your technical skills. So you don't want to, remember the a resume is done in the order of importance. So for you, your technical skills, you have to have them right up in front and center. You don't leave them to the bottom for someone to possibly skim your resume and miss, right? So you want to move those to the top. So it says, Dyson and Lubin, skills at the end of the resume, and for Seidenberg, or computer people, skills after education section and the top half page. Okay. So interests, here's the same thing. Interest is sort of a filler, unless, in this case, black belt karate, marathon runner, concert pianist. This show that this person took, years to develop this kind of a skill. And who knows, it might set them, we talked about in the beginning, know what you have that might kill your competition. So if you're very competitive and the job calls for somebody who's competitive, or you have to have a lot of stick-to-itiveness, that's what these would tell me as a recruiter. But in most cases, the fact that you like murder mysteries, I don't think that's going to get you the job if you don't have everything else in order. And I wouldn't bump anything from your work experience or your education or your academic projects to get this on, because it's not that important. It's better to have the one-page resume than have this as a tag, tag along. So it's optional but recommended. It's recommended if you A, can fit it on, and B, if you have something that you really would want to talk about in an interview, or as I said, it would set you apart from the competition. 3 or 4 to give you an insight in who you are at a personal level. I think that's still more appropriate for more junior people than it is for more people with lots of years of experience. You'd want to focus on that. So let me take a look now at the content, the bullet point formula. So the bullet point formula is an action verb, an accomplishment, what you did, and a result, how you did it. So it's the verb, it's the skill you want to showcase, it's the accomplishment, what you did, and it's a result. And here's some examples. Manage all social media content for a restaurant on Facebook, Twitter, and company website that resulted in an increase of 25% in reservations. Or provided excellent customer service, I guess, that resulted in a superior dining experience, and return patronage. So those words, those action verbs are very important. So here's a list. Either take a picture of this, or as I said, Samantha's I'm going to give you my PowerPoint so that you can have these. What I like about these action words are they're broken down into different types of skills. So you might be finding, I keep saying that when you're writing your resume, you keep starting with the same verb, right? Keep starting with oversaw, and you don't want to do that. You want to mix it up to make it more interesting. Or led isn't the most powerful one here, but some of these others are. So you want to take a look at these and see, use them as a basis to write your bullet points. I think that they will help you. So I'm just going to show you how to compose these bullet points for your resume. So before and after, thinking about your resume with these verbs. File documents in a new filing system. Okay, maybe that's what you did, but it's not that exciting. But afterwards, revamped agency filing system leading to increased efficiency to locate documents. Now, I happen to know someone who had the same exact situation, and it's hard for a counselor to say, you have to kind of draw your own self out and say, what did you really do on a broader scale? Did you just file documents, or did it mean something to the whole? Did it mean something in a bigger picture? So that's what this says, and it starts with a really strong action word: revamped agency filing system. Assisted with a newsletter. Assisted is a very poor word because I don't know who else was there and what part you played. So yes, it wasn't just solely you, but I want to know what, who I'm hiring. I'm not hiring the whole team that worked on it with you. So developed engaging entertainment section of monthly newsletter, which increased readership by 800. So here it shows the result. And yes, it's true. You didn't do it by yourself. You developed with other people. This is not lying. It's just saying that, but you did play a part in it, right? As opposed to assisted. Assisted is a very weak word because, as I said, I don't see your brand in there. Entered contact information of consultants into a database, all very kind of low level administrative, but created a worldwide database of 500 consultants using Microsoft Access to track overseas activities. So I hope you see, when I talk about live it in black and white and tell it in color, this is a sales document, right? So you want to tell it in the most powerful way you can, because as we said in the beginning, your resume is designed to get you the interview. So revamped is the action word. Here's the accomplishment, that they did this and they can quantify it, and the result. Action verb, accomplishment, and result. And when we talk about interviews in the coming months, you'll see that this format is the same way you would describe what you did in an interview. Okay. And quantify wherever you can. Even if you took something from 1 to 2, you increased it 100%. So you tell it in the best way that you can. Now here I just want to show you, remember, I'm using this to illustrate something else that happens a lot. And that is, we talked about chronology. You want to have the chronology in reverse order. So you want to have the most recent, experience first, and then going to the least recent. However, if let's say you're in a job now just because you had to take it for money, or it's, let's say you had a job 5 years ago in the field that you want to go into, but that job ended for whatever reason, and now your most recent experience is not that relevant to your future target, right? So the way you can break from chronology and not having to put the thing you're in now, which is not going to be that impressive at first blush when someone looks at this resume. You can call it relevant experience and then other experience. And so that allows you to break with chronology and put the things that would be most interesting to the target up front, and the things that would be just other earning work or not really pertaining to the field in the second part under other experience. This happens a lot, especially now with COVID. It's going to be happening more and more because people, jobs have ended for no fault of their own, and they're taking whatever they can take. But eventually when things clear up again and the job market is different, the career opens up again, they will want to go back to what they were doing 5 years ago or 2 years ago or however long it's been. So this is something that's a technique to do it. Also, if you have a gap in your resume, to do it this way will kind of, not that it won't totally cover the gap because the years are the years, but it will help in terms of not making the gap and that red flag so blatant in a recruiter's eyes. So I hope you understand that. The other thing I just wanted to say is your title. While you can't change where you worked, and you cannot change the dates you worked, sometimes you can change your title to make it more functional from what you were doing. So, somebody that I just spoke to this morning was interested in doing, I think I mentioned before I got in, more counseling type of work. And yet she was called a budgeting person or admin budgeting. But you can change your title to make it maybe admin counseling. If that's what you're doing for most of your administrative duties, and it relates what you're doing functionally to your target, you can change your title somewhat to bring in that keyword to make it more relevant to the target. Okay, I mean, you can't make yourself CEO, but if it's something that's, especially a lot of these admin jobs, like it could be admin, they call you an admin, but you've been doing marketing, and that's the kind of job you want to get. You can put yourself marketing/administrative assistant. Or also, a company will give you a title just because it works internally. Like I was in sales, but I was called Vice President Client Relations. So when I wanted to get another business development job, that wasn't going to help me in the real world of account management and business development. I had to change my title to put Vice President of Business Development, or else I wasn't going to be recognized through my resume or through my LinkedIn. Okay, so some final notes before we get to questions. Keyword optimization, keywords, keywords, keywords. You have to have the right keywords for the target. Make sure your resume is positioned for the target. That's the question that I always ask. People say they don't like this, they don't like that, but the main question is, are you positioned for the target? Do not rely solely on spell check for your grammatical errors. Having a grammatical error will knock you right out of the box. Remove personal information like age, birthday, religion. You don't want to cram too much information into one page. If it's truly you need to go to a page and more than a page, make sure it's at least a page and a half. You don't want to have a page in like 3 sentences. Then you have to try to eliminate something to get it on one page. Obviously, I'm going to say it anyway, don't falsify your experience. Remove references. That's not something that we do anymore. We don't say references available upon request. People will ask you, and hopefully you don't wear out your references. Don't give out your references until the person is not at this resume stage. It's after the interview, after you're really a qualified candidate, and this is what they're going to check before they hire you, because everyone only has a certain amount of references in their lives, and you want to protect those people. You don't want them bothered, and you want to prepare your references to be able to help you and speak to the position that you're interviewing for. And also continue to build your resume by adding skills and accomplishments. If this is not happening, if you've been in the job for 2 or 3 years and you have not added any skills or accomplishments, you might want to think about moving on, because that's not 3 years of experience. That's the same experience for 3 years. And that is just not going to, especially if you're, well, at any stage of the game, but particularly if you're in your 20s and 30s, you should be always adding skills and accomplishments. And, you know, and online courses and anything else to improve yourself. Okay, so I think that's it. You know, now it's time for questions and answers. So if you want to write them in the chat box.
Oh, so it looks like we got one. It says, I work in a job where we have some big name clients. Should I name those clients in the resume? Would that negatively impact the ATS/keywords?
No, I think that unless the company says that their policy is that you're not supposed to list your clients, because, you know, I've been in consulting companies where we can't say who our clients are. I think that's fair game, because it shows the level, especially if they're, you know, well-known players, it shows the scope and the level that you're dealing with.
Okay. Does not having a completed LinkedIn profile truly hurt your chances of finding employment when your resume is solid?
No, it doesn't. Well, it depends on what completed means. And it said before, you want a picture, a professional headshot, not that a professional has to do it, but a decent headshot, and at least your headline that reflects the same keywords. But will someone hire you without a LinkedIn? Absolutely. Absolutely. There are a lot of people who don't have a LinkedIn. It's just people will look, and it's nice to do. And it's sort of your other resume. So there might be a question mark, but plenty of people will hire someone on the basis of their resume. And also remember, if the resume is going to get you the interview, the resume is not going to get you the job. It's going to get you the interview, and the interview is going to get you the job. Okay.
To maximize the ATS, should all bullet points and all bolded items be removed?
No, not at all. Bullet points are what you want to use. You don't want to use text boxes. So the bullet points are the things that you use on the left-hand side to talk about your accomplishments, hopefully, and your responsibilities. But, you know, so no, don't remove them. And bold is fine to use. So if you came in first place in some contest, and maybe you say it in the profile, but, you know, you want to make sure that they don't miss it, bolding is fine, especially if it's a lengthy resume. But please don't have more than 6 to 8 bullets the most, and those are in your most recent jobs. Because when I see somebody with 17 bullets on each of their jobs, my eyes roll back in my head, because all that is you're talking about your job description, and that's not helping you get a job. So you want to pull out the ones that are the most important, or, you know, if someone doesn't want to read that much. Okay.
Any other questions? I think so. All right.
Now, you sure, guys?
We have one.
Okay.
With 35 years experience, should you list jobs from college on?
No, this is not a biography or an autobiography. It's just the things, remember, it's a sales slick of what is important to this target. And I have to say, in truth, I mean, I always used to say over 20 years of experience, like the more experience, the better. In this day and age, people don't want to see more than 10, 15 at the most years of experience, because unfortunately, you know, there's an ageist thing going on. Now, the only reason to mention something from way back is if you haven't done it in a long time and it's relevant to the target. And what you might want to do is put it in your profile. So for instance, when I was, college advising is something that I did right out of graduate school. Then I went into business, I never mentioned it again. But when I wanted to get a job back in a university, I put that in my profile, that I had coaching experience in academia, nonprofit, and the business world, because it was important for the target or the employer to understand that this was not the first time I was doing this.
How do you maximize the skills section when your experience, isn't very technical? Should you include common things like Microsoft Office?
Yeah, if it's not a technical job and people want to just make sure you have the Microsoft Office suite, which is PowerPoint, Word, any kind of Excel if you have it. So yeah, just the general things, or up to date in computer skills, just something to show that you are computer savvy.
I've been advised to send a resume as a PDF. How does this affect the ATS then? How does this affect the ATS then does the bold underline chart matter for TS?
I'm not quite sure I understand.
If as advised to send the resume as a PDF, how does this affect the ATS? And then does the bold, underline, or charts matter for TS?
I don't know what TS
send
is.
A follow-up.
Oh, okay. So for the ATS system, they want you to submit a PDF, or not a PDF, right? And they want to put in Word, but in terms of the follow-up, you can do it in any format you want if it's not through the applicant chat, if it's not an online application. Like I said before, you want to have to follow the ATS system if it's going to possibly go through the computer. But if you know that you're writing directly to the hiring manager, you can use charts, graphs, whatever you think is effective for that job, because you're talking now to the company. But make sure it's not that technical, because if it's your first, if you're not writing to the hiring manager, you're just sending it into the company, the first stop is going to be a recruiter, and a recruiter is probably not going to know your field. So you don't want to have it that technical that the person won't understand what you're trying to convey.
We have time for just a couple more. So I see 3 in here. So it's how many years back should you list on your LinkedIn profile, and should it match your resume?
Yeah, your LinkedIn profile, the experience should match your resume. But you're not going back that far. If you have a lot of jobs, it's a case-by-case situation, but you don't want to go back more than 10 years unless the jobs, prior to that are really important to the target.
And then if you've graduated college a long time ago and have a lot of experience, do you still list the graduation year on the resume?
No, yeah. It's a, this is a tricky thing, but unfortunately, if you graduated a long time ago, I would leave the date off. You are going to prompt the person reading it to know that you've left it off because it's a long time ago, but there's no, they could guess it's what might be a long time ago to them might be different than what the reality is. So they might guess a long time ago is 1990 when actually it's 1980. So it's better to leave it off.
Okay.
Remember, this is a screening, you're being screened out now. Excuse me.
If you have more than 20 years experience and you only recommend putting the last 15 years on your resume, where do you include your other experience?
Oh, I'm sorry, if you have more than 50
So if this person has about over 20 years of experience, but on their resume, you should only list the last 15 years, where do they add that other experience that they're not listing?
Well, they can just put, as a timekeeper, the name of the company and the dates, and don't go into bullets.
Okay.
Don't go into bullet.
Yeah.
There you are.
Quick clarification. Do I send the resume to an online job in a PDF or Word version?
In the Word version. Yeah, online.
And then one other quick one.
Sure.
Certifications go under education or skills?
Do qualifications? Certifications.
Is that education or skills?
It could go either. It really could go, it's usually done education, and it would be the first one to list, and then your university would be the second. But if it's a certification that gives you, like if you took the SHRM, which is the Society of Human Resource Management, gives you a certification, and it's dead on that you want to work for SHRM, a human resource job, you can put that, like you would put CPA, you can put that right after your name. So if it's something like that, you want to get it right up front. You don't want people to miss things, right? Because they're just scanning it. So you get it right up front, you bold it, you do it in order of priority. Even your bullets, you want to do your bullets in order of the most important first, because maybe they won't read bullet 6. So that's why it's important to do it that way.
All right, well, that's the end of our questions. Marilyn, do you have any closing thoughts before we leave?
No, just please remember to keep your target in mind. And, I can't emphasize this enough. Don't have one resume do both things. It's much better to do your plan A, be focused on plan A and plan B, because there's different targets. And that's the thing I say all day long. I don't know if this resume is good because I don't know what the target is. So be very mindful of that. And, I wish you all well. Hopefully these will all now result in interviews, and, try to use that profile section, because that has helped so many people all of a sudden turn their resumes that weren't getting hits into resumes that are.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Next month, October 13th, we'll be turning interviews into offers. So that's a nice progression of this topic. Please check out our website, alumni.pace.edu/SaresGoneVirtual for other virtual opportunities. And we hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.